Chosen one. Listen carefully. This is not coincidence. Heaven has paused everything around you so you would hear this moment. The noise, the chaos, the questions all silenced. Because heaven needs you to remember how far you've come. You are not here by accident. You are standing at the edge of completion. The evidence that what tried to destroy you has already lost its power. You are the living proof that divine endurance is real. You remember the moment when it all almost ended, the night you thought you wouldn't make it. The battle that drained every drop of strength. The betrayal that pierced deeper than any blade. But still, you rose. You carried the weight of unanswered prayers and still whispered, God, I trust you. You walked through valleys of shadow, through silence that felt like abandonment, through storms that lasted longer than anyone said they would. Yet somehow, you are here breathing, stronger, and far more dangerous to darkness than ever before. This isn't just survival. Chosen one. This is resurrection. You didn't crawl out of that pit just to exist. You emerged to testify. The wounds on your heart, they've become maps of divine deliverance. The scars on your soul, heaven calls them medals of honor. You endured what others could not. Not because you were stronger, but because God was not finished with you. There was a moment, remember it, when everything inside you screamed to quit. You felt forgotten, unseen, unloved. But heaven was whispering, hold on, because victory is being written in silence. You didn't know it then, but the angels were guarding your steps, recording your tears, turning your pain into prophecy. You thought it was over, but God was just beginning to reveal your true power. You have faced betrayal, loss, and abandonment, but you have also faced yourself. That was the greatest victory of all. When the lies of the enemy told you that you were worthless, you stood on trembling legs and declared, no, I am chosen. And heaven took note. The moment you refused to surrender to despair, heaven shouted your name through the corridors of eternity. The Word of God declares in the Gospel of John, chapter 16, verse 33, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. This is your confirmation you have overcome, because the overcomer lives within you. The same power that raised Christ from the dead has carried you out of your own tomb. The season that once suffocated you has expired. The darkness that hunted you has lost its authority. You have walked through the valley and found your voice again. Look at yourself now. You no longer flinch at the storms. You no longer break when they whisper your name. You have learned that peace is not the absence of pain, it is the presence of God in the middle of it. You carry that peace now, like armor, like light, like fire that cannot be extinguished. Beloved chosen one, heaven celebrates your endurance. Every tear you cried watered the seeds of your next season. Every loss taught you the shape of true surrender. Every silence refined your hearing so you could recognize the voice of God more clearly. What once broke you has now become your divine authority. Hear this, clearly you will never face that again. The test is complete. The wilderness season has done its work. You are stepping into a realm where the same things that once triggered pain will now trigger praise. You are no longer the person who entered the fire. You are the one who came out shining. The enemy thought he was burying you, but he was planting you. Heaven watched you grow through the dirt. You are being prepared for greater things, but not from the posture of pain anymore. From this day forward, you walk as one who has already won. You do not need to prove your strength. Your survival already declares it. You do not need to fight for validation. Heaven has already approved you. What's behind you can no longer hurt you, because grace has sealed the door. This message comes to remind you, celebrate. You have crossed over. The darkness that haunted your nights will no longer visit your mornings. The same God who carried you through the storm now crowns you with glory. You have been tested, tried, and trusted. Heaven's decree over your life is final. You have overcome, and you will never face that again. So, pause, lift your head, and breathe in the peace that was promised to you. This is not the end, it's your rebirth. The heavens are smiling, and the earth will soon see the evidence of your restoration. If this word found you, it's not random, it's divine timing. You were meant to hear this now. You are not just surviving, you are thriving. You are not just chosen, you are commissioned. And if this message resonates deep in your spirit, show heaven that you hear. Like this message, share it so others may rise, and subscribe to stay aligned with the flow of divine words. Then, as a prophetic act of agreement, comment the number 777 below, symbolizing completion, spiritual victory, and divine perfection. Heaven's eyes never left you. Chosen one, not for a single breath, not for a single heartbeat. Even in the nights you felt unseen, when silence echoed louder than any prayer, heaven watched. When you questioned whether your cries even reached the sky, the angels stood guard around you, whispering, they still believe, they still trust. You thought you were abandoned, but in truth, you were being observed closely, tenderly, intentionally. There were moments when your strength faded into whispers, when your faith trembled under the weight of uncertainty. You walked through rooms full of people and felt invisible. You gave your best and were overlooked. You tried to love, and your love was mishandled. Yet in every unnoticed act of kindness, in every quiet sacrifice, heaven was recording. Nothing escaped divine sight. Not one tear fell without purpose. The world saw your weakness. Heaven saw your worship. When others misread your silence as surrender, God read it as strength. You didn't fight back because you were weak. You stayed still because you were learning to trust divine timing. There's a strength in restraint, a power in patience, and you mastered both while the world misjudged you. Every delay had meaning. Every closed door protected you from a hallway full of counterfeit promises. You thought you were losing, but God was removing what could not carry you where you're going. You were never forgotten. You were being hidden in plain sight, shielded from eyes that couldn't comprehend your calling. Heaven never looks away from those it anoints. The fire you endured didn't make you less visible to God. It made you shine brighter in the spiritual realm. The darker the valley became, the easier it was for heaven to spot your light. Your loneliness was never isolation, it was consecration. You were being set apart, refined by silence, strengthened by solitude. When you thought God was ignoring your prayers, He was actually answering them in ways you couldn't yet perceive. You asked for strength, and He allowed storms. You prayed for wisdom, and He sent confusion to make you seek His voice. You begged for breakthrough, and He broke what was binding you. Heaven doesn't always move the way you expect, but it always moves in love. It is written in the book of Psalms, chapter 34. Verse 15, the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their cry. You see, chosen one, his gaze never wavered. Even when you doubted, even when your faith cracked beneath disappointment, his focus remained steady. God does not flinch at your tears. He does not grow weary of your weakness. His eyes are fixed on you not to judge, but to guide, not to condemn, but to comfort. Every season of pain was heaven's way of revealing what was within you. You learned that divine attention doesn't always look like open skies and easy paths. Sometimes it looks like a wilderness that teaches you to depend. Sometimes it looks like waiting when everything in you wants to run. God's watching eye is not passive, it is protective. And while you thought he was silent, he was speaking in ways beyond words. He was aligning people, circumstances, and timing to ensure that when the answer came, you would be ready to hold it. Because blessings given too early can crush those unprepared. But you, through every ache and delay, became ready. Look back now with spiritual eyes. You will see his fingerprints on every chapter. That missed opportunity, it was mercy. That heartbreak, it was release. That long season of uncertainty, it was the training ground for discernment. You were never lost. You were being led. The path just looked unfamiliar because it was holy ground. You may have felt unseen by people, but heaven was watching your every move. When you chose forgiveness instead of revenge, heaven applauded. When you held your tongue instead of defending yourself, heaven honored you. When you stayed faithful with nothing to show for it, heaven said, now they are ready. And now, chosen one, your obedience has reached maturity. You are about to see with your own eyes what heaven has seen all along, the proof that every hidden moment mattered. The silence was never neglect, it was strategy. You were under divine surveillance the entire time. And heaven has decided it's time to make what was done in private visible to the world. Heaven's eyes never left you, and now the world will see the evidence that they never will. Even now, heaven watches as you rise into purpose. The same eyes that guarded your pain now witness your transformation. You were never forsaken, only prepared. What once felt like hiding was holy protection, shaping you for the moment you would finally shine. So lift your head, chosen one. Walk forward with quiet confidence, knowing heaven still sees, still guides, still covers you. Every step you take is divine proof that being unseen was never being forgotten, it was simply being preserved for revelation. Chosen one, you didn't survive the fire to remain the same. The heat that surrounded you wasn't meant to consume, it was meant to reveal. You have walked through betrayal, rejection, and storms that no one else even knew you faced. Yet, you emerged with your heart still intact, glowing brighter than before. The pain didn't destroy you, it purified you. There was a time when you questioned why it had to be so hard. You thought, if I'm chosen, why must I suffer like this? But heaven was answering in silence, because only fire can prove authenticity. Gold does not fear the furnace. Diamonds are not formed in comfort. You were not being punished, you were being refined. You see, chosen one, every betrayal was a filter. Every heartbreak separated the counterfeit from the divine. You lost people, places, and versions of yourself that could not survive the temperature of transformation. That was grace in disguise. The fire burned away everything temporary, leaving behind only what is eternal, your calling, your resilience. your unshakable faith. You didn't realize it, but while you were crying, heaven was applauding. You were passing tests most would have failed. You were proving that your faith was not built on blessings, but on belief. You held on when nothing made sense. You trusted God when all you could see was loss. That kind of endurance cannot be taught. It must be forged. As the Spirit spoke through the prophet Isaiah, chapter 48, verse 10, "See, I have refined you, though not as silver. I have tested you in the furnace of affliction." These words are not distant, they are your story. The affliction you endured was the furnace. But now, the testing is complete. The pressure that once threatened to destroy you has become the reason you shine with clarity and authority. The fire exposed who you are and what you carry. Now, wherever you go, you carry the scent of survival, the mark of someone who has been through holy fire and lived to testify. People will feel peace around you because they'll sense the fire that didn't kill you, it cleansed you. You've become a carrier of purity, humility, and power. Do you notice it? The things that once triggered tears no longer move you. The same words that once broke your spirit now sound powerless. The memories that used to sting now serve as fuel for gratitude. You've been refined. You've graduated from pain's classroom. This new strength isn't pride, it's peace. You don't need to prove who you are anymore. The ones who misunderstood you will see the evidence soon enough. You don't need to defend your transformation. Heaven already validated it in secret. You don't owe explanations to those who didn't endure your flames. Only the refined know the language of the fire. Beloved, never again will the fire feel like punishment. You now understand its purification. What once hurt now helps. What once broke now builds. Every tear was a seed, and now the harvest begins. You have been purified for purpose. Even your silence carries weight now. Your presence brings conviction to darkness because your spirit has been cleansed of fear and shame. You have become the living definition of resilience, one who has stood in flames and discovered heaven inside the heat. Chosen one. Your glow is not ordinary. It's divine evidence that what was meant to destroy you only revealed your essence. You were never a victim. You were a vessel in transformation. Now, everything you touch carries the power of someone who survived divine fire. This is why the attacks intensified before your breakthrough. The enemy saw what was being forged, but he couldn't stop what heaven had already sealed. The flame that tried to consume you has become your testimony, and the world will see it, the radiance of someone who has walked through fire and come out carrying glory. So stand tall now. The worst is behind you, and the best is awakening within you. You are living proof that pain births purpose. The furnace that once frightened you has turned into your foundation of faith. The same fire that once surrounded you now burns within you, guiding your steps and guarding your peace. If this message resonates in your spirit, leave a sign in the comments below. Type, "I'm refined," because you are. You didn't just survive the fire, you became the fire. Declare it not as pride, but as prophecy. Heaven hears your words and marks your agreement. You are refined, radiant, and ready for the next chapter. When you type, "I'm refined," you're not just commenting, you're declaring identity. You're confirming before heaven and earth that the pain no longer defines you, the purification does. It's your public testimony that the furnace produced faith, not fear, and that your spirit now walks in holy strength. So, write it boldly. I'm refined. Let those words echo as a prophetic decree over your life. Each letter becomes a seal of transformation, a reminder that the fire was never meant to burn you down, but to awaken the gold within you that heaven always saw. There was a season, chosen one, when heaven seemed silent. You prayed, cried, fasted, waited, but nothing moved. You searched for signs, begged for direction, and yet the heavens above you felt like brass. Every word you spoke seemed to fall back to the ground unheard. But silence is not absence. Silence is strategy. When heaven goes quiet, it's not because God has left you, it's because He's watching to see what you do next. The greatest tests are not in storms, but in stillness. When the wind stops blowing and the waves refuse to part, that's when faith must speak louder than sight. You were in a divine examination, and though you didn't realize it, your endurance became your answer sheet. The waiting season exposed everything that could not survive in your spirit. Impatience surfaced, doubt whispered, fear shouted, but underneath it all, something holy was being formed: trust. Trust doesn't grow in answered prayers, it grows in unanswered nights. The silence of heaven was never punishment, it was preparation for hearing God differently. You learned to listen beyond sound, to feel His presence in still air, to sense His nearness in what looked like emptiness. You discovered that sometimes heaven's loudest yes sounds like quiet endurance. You stopped asking, "Where are you?" and began whispering, "Even if you don't speak, I'll still believe." That shift changed everything. As the prophet wrote in the scroll of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3, "For the vision awaits an appointed time, it speaks of the end and will not prove false." Those words have been living within you all along. The delay was not denial. The silence was the sign that the appointed time had not yet arrived. You were not being ignored, you were being aligned. Heaven was not saying no, it was saying not yet. You see, chosen one, there is divine purpose in every pause. While you were still, God was moving in the unseen. When you thought nothing was changing, the foundations beneath your future were being laid. If He had answered you too soon, you would have walked into blessings that your strength couldn't yet sustain. Every great calling requires a wilderness. Even Jesus was led into silence before His public ministry began. The desert is not a place of punishment, it's a place of preparation. It's where your identity becomes unshakable, where the whispers of the enemy are drowned out by the whisper of God. You learn to stop chasing the voice and start trusting the character of the one who speaks. And in that stillness, something remarkable happened. The very silence that once terrified you became sacred. You began to recognize it as a meeting place, not a void. You started to see that the lack of sound wasn't proof of distance, it was proof of trust. Heaven trusted you enough to test you in quiet. Now that the silence has passed, you understand its purpose. You no longer need constant confirmation because you've built confidence. You no longer crave noise because you've found peace in stillness. You have become fluent in heaven's quiet language. You hear Him in patterns, in timing, in peace, in doors that open naturally without striving. This is what maturity looks like, no longer begging for signs, but walking in stillness with assurance. The silence was your teacher, and it taught you that God's timing is never late, only layered. There are seasons when heaven hides so that faith can be found. There are moments when heaven steps back so your trust can step forward. Remember how it felt to wake up wondering if your prayers mattered. Remember how you almost gave up. That moment right there was the turning point. Because faith is most powerful when it believes without evidence. You stood firm when the wind of answers didn't blow. That's what heaven celebrates, the unseen obedience. Now, when you face silence again, you won't panic. You'll smile, because you know that quietness in heaven often precedes revelation on earth. You've lived through divine stillness once and emerged stronger, wiser, unmovable. The same God who stayed silent for a season is the same God who will soon speak loudly through your breakthrough. So rest now in that awareness. The waiting wasn't wasted. The quiet wasn't cruel. Heaven was never deaf. It was deliberate. Every unanswered question was a seed. And soon, you will see the harvest of what was hidden in that stillness. The silence taught you to trust. The waiting taught you to worship without reward. And now, you carry the calm of someone who knows that even when heaven is quiet, God is still moving. Now you understand. Chosen one. That silence was never distance, it was direction. Heaven's quiet shaped your hearing, refined your patience, and anchored your soul in faith that no longer depends on noise, but on divine knowing. So when heaven seems still again, remember, this silence is sacred ground. It means the next miracle is already unfolding behind the veil. Trust the quiet. It carries your next divine revelation. You didn't see it. Chosen one. But while you thought nothing was changing, heaven was rearranging everything in your favor. The shift didn't start in the natural, it began in the spirit realm. The moment you said, God, I still trust you, even when everything felt shattered, something began to move in dimensions you couldn't see. There are moments when God works loudly with miracles, open doors, and obvious signs. But more often, He works quietly, beneath the surface of your understanding, orchestrating divine connections and removing hidden obstacles. The delay you felt was not neglect, it was construction. Heaven was building the bridge that now leads you into restoration. You have no idea how many battles were fought for you while you slept. Angels were dispatched on your behalf. Demonic assignments were cancelled. The weight that pressed against your heart was not proof of defeat. It was spiritual resistance to the greatness forming inside you. You didn't lose. You outlasted. The shift has already happened, even if your eyes can't see it yet. The atmosphere around you is changing, heaviness lifting, fear dissolving, favor unfolding like dawn after a long night. The realm of the unseen is now aligning with the promises spoken over your life. You are walking into divine synchronization. Heaven has declared your name in rooms you haven't entered yet. Your next opportunity is already searching for you. That door you thought was closed, it was simply being timed. God didn't say no. He said soon. The Word of God reminds us through the prophet Daniel, chapter 10, verse 12, from the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding, your words were heard. Did you catch that? Chosen one, from the first day you prayed, heaven heard. Even before you saw results, your words reached the throne. Every tear, every sigh, every whispered "help me" was registered in divine archives. And now, the response that was delayed by warfare is finally breaking through. You have entered the moment where invisible prayers become visible blessings. The spiritual shift has already taken place. The natural world is catching up. That's why lately you've been sensing something changing in the air, a strange calm, a subtle hope, a quiet strength. It's heaven's way of saying, it's done. There's something beautiful about this moment. You are no longer fighting for survival. You're learning how to live in victory. You don't have to wrestle anymore. You simply have to receive. The spiritual shift is heaven's whisper, telling you to stop striving and start flowing. And as you walk into this new alignment, pause for a moment to breathe gratitude. You made it through what should have broken you. You remained faithful in confusion, generous in lack, and kind in chaos. That is the posture that invites heaven's abundance. I want to speak from the heart for a moment. Chosen one, messages like this, these sacred moments where heaven and heart meet, are seeds of light that travel across the world. Every time one is shared, it reaches another weary soul who might be standing at the edge of giving up. When you like, you add a spark of recognition. When you share, you release that spark to ignite another heart. When you subscribe, you become a guardian of this flame, keeping the light alive for those still walking through their night. And if you ever feel led, only if it stirs naturally in your spirit, you can also pour a drop of oil into this lamp through your donation. Not because you have to, but because your heart whispers, I want this light to keep burning. Think of it as tending the eternal flame. Every offering, no matter how small, becomes fuel for another soul's hope. There's no demand here, no transaction, just an open invitation for those who feel moved. Because generosity, when it flows from the Spirit, carries the fragrance of heaven. It's how divine cycles of giving and grace stay alive. If this message has touched you, consider it a ripple. You felt it because someone before you shared, subscribed, or gave. And now you have the same chance to continue the chain of light. Every gesture, every like, every share, every subscription, every seed sown in love becomes part of heaven's symphony of restoration. You are part of a living movement of faith, hope, and divine restoration. Every small act of support, every click, every kind thought is fuel for the fire heaven started. So if your spirit agrees, light that next candle. Like, share, subscribe, or donate as your heart leads, not out of pressure, but out of peace. For when giving flows from gratitude, heaven multiplies it 1,000-fold. And as you do, may God bless every corner of your life. May abundance meet you in unexpected ways. And may the same divine shift that has begun in your spirit overflow into every area of your world. You are not just a receiver of this message, you are part of the miracle it carries. Grace, oh, chosen one. If only you could see how many times it stepped in for you. There were moments when judgment could have found you, when your own mistakes should have chained your destiny, when shame whispered that you were finished, but grace interrupted. It walked into the courtroom of heaven and said, no, this one is mine. When everyone else saw failure, grace saw potential. When even you gave up on yourself, grace refused to let go. You were not saved because you were perfect. You were rescued because divine mercy refused to watch you drown. Grace is not just a concept, it's a living presence that has followed you through every storm. Think about it. The accidents that didn't happen, the opportunities that came back around, the tears that dried without explanation. Those were not coincidences, they were signatures of grace. Every time you fell and still rose, grace was beneath you, lifting you up with invisible hands. You've been carried more times than you realize. Sometimes, you wondered why certain doors closed right when you were ready to step through them. You thought it was rejection. But now, looking back, can you see how those doors would have led you into disaster? Grace closed them, not to punish you, but to protect you from what you couldn't see. It wasn't rejection, it was redirection. Grace is the soft voice that said, "Try again," when your faith was trembling. It's the reason you're still standing when others fell in the same storm. Grace rewrote your story, replacing every ending with a beginning. It's not just something God gives, it's something He is. Grace is God, bending low to lift you up again. As it is written in the letter to the Ephesians, chapter 2, verse 8, "For it is by grace you have been saved, through faith, and this is not from yourselves. It is the gift of God." That verse is your reflection. You did not earn this mercy, it pursued you, even when you walked away. Grace followed, whispering through every heartbreak, "You still belong." It doesn't matter what you've done, where you've been, or how far you think you've fallen. Grace has a longer reach than your greatest failure. And today, grace steps forward once again, not because you are flawless, but because you are chosen. It covers what could have condemned you. It silences every voice that says you are unworthy. Grace has turned the page on your past and is writing something new, something eternal. Can you feel it? The quiet reassurance that you don't have to strive for forgiveness anymore. You don't have to earn love. It's already yours. Grace means your record in heaven now reads, "Paid in full." There's a peace that comes when you realize that everything that tried to ruin you has already been redeemed. Grace doesn't just erase, it transforms. It takes broken pieces and turns them into stained glass through which God's light shines brighter than before. When you think of how far you've come, don't just thank your strength, thank your rescue. Grace was there when strength ran out. Grace became the bridge when you couldn't walk anymore. It didn't just save you once, it keeps saving you daily. So, chosen one, lift your head high. The accusations of your past have no voice here. You have been washed, renewed, and rewritten. Grace stepped into your story like sunlight after a storm, drying the tears and revealing the beauty beneath the ashes. If this word finds your heart, don't resist it. Let gratitude rise quietly inside you. Whisper a simple thank you, because every heartbeat that still carries hope is proof that grace is not finished with you yet. And, as a prophetic act of faith, let heaven see your agreement. Type 888 inches, the comments 8. The number of new beginnings, not as a ritual, but as a declaration. Grace has started something new in me. Let 888 be your symbol of renewal, your personal sign that you've received what heaven has already given. Every time you see it, let it remind you, grace didn't just find you once, it walks with you, daily, lovingly, endlessly. When you comment 888, you're not typing random numbers, you're aligning with heaven's language. 8 is the number of divine renewal, of covenants reborn, of stories rewritten. When you write it, you're saying, grace has begun again within me. It's your silent testimony of rebirth. Each digit carries meaning. The first 8 stands for the ending of old cycles. The second represents the unfolding of divine purpose, and the third marks the sealing of new beginnings. Together, they form a rhythm of resurrection, a reminder that God's mercy doesn't end, it repeats, restoring what was lost. So, chosen one, let your 888 be more than a symbol. Let it be a spiritual signature, marking this moment when heaven's grace touched earth through your surrender. You're not just responding to a message, you're confirming transformation. Write it with faith, and watch new beginnings find you. Chosen one. There was a time when you thought the weight on your shoulders would crush you. You were buried under grief, disappointment, and confusion so thick that breathing itself felt like labor. You looked around and saw others thriving while you were just trying to survive. Yet here you are, standing on the other side of what was meant to bury you. You didn't just survive the pit, you outgrew it. Pain has a strange way of planting us. What was designed to suffocate you became the soil that nourished your roots. You learned how to draw strength from the dark, how to grow in silence, how to push upward even when no one noticed. The very pressure that threatened to end you became the reason you learned endurance. You are no longer buried, you've become deeply rooted. Every tear watered your transformation. Every night you thought would never end became fertilizer for the dawn. God didn't allow you to be buried to kill you. He allowed you to be planted so that one day you'd bloom where no one expected. You see, chosen one, seeds and graves look the same from the outside, but one holds death, and the other hides new life. You weren't dying, you were germinating, and in that hidden place, heaven was working silently. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every rejection, all of it was used to deepen your foundation. While others ran ahead chasing quick victories, you were being built to last. You are not a shallow flower that fades with the season. You are an oak planted by divine design. The deeper the roots, the greater the reach. Now look at you. You've outgrown what was sent to bury you. The voices that mocked you no longer echo. The shadows that haunted you have faded. The same soil that once felt like suffocation now feels like sacred ground, because it carried the nutrients of wisdom, humility, and resilience. You didn't just walk away from your pain, you transformed it into purpose. As it is written in the book of Genesis, chapter 50, verse 20, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done." That verse lives in your bones. It's not just a promise, it's a portrait of your life. What the enemy meant for destruction has become your testimony. The betrayal that once broke your spirit now builds your platform. Every loss became a lesson. Every delay disguised divine direction. There's something sacred about being misunderstood. It teaches you that your validation doesn't come from people, it comes from heaven. When they turned away, heaven turned toward you. When they buried you, God whispered, "Perfect. Now I can grow them without interference." You thought you were losing visibility, but you were gaining roots. Growth never feels glamorous in the moment. It feels lonely, painful, endless. But buried things don't stay hidden forever. In time, the surface begins to tremble. The soil begins to shift. And suddenly, life bursts through what once looked like loss. That's you, chosen one. You are the evidence that divine planting works. Now you carry something that can't be shaken. The storms that once terrified you only serve to water your growth. You've reached the place where your peace no longer depends on circumstances, it flows from conviction. You are no longer reacting to pain, you're responding with purpose. You no longer crave recognition, you're content being rooted in truth. What you've become can't be easily moved. That's why certain people can't reach you anymore. Their words no longer pierce. Their absence no longer wounds. You've grown beyond their reach. You've become too tall for old cages, too deep for shallow approval. You've stepped into a divine maturity where you no longer need closure. You've outgrown explanation. You're rising, quietly and steadily. You may not notice the change because you've been growing slowly, but heaven sees it. Every act of patience, every quiet choice to forgive, every moment you refused to give up, it all became part of your divine blooming. You're becoming a shelter for others now, a tree that provides shade for souls still buried in their own seasons. So, never despise where you came from. The dirt that once covered you was holy ground. It taught you humility, dependence, and faith. It stripped away your illusions and gave you something unbreakable: character. Without that soil, you would have never discovered the depth of your own roots. The time of burial is over. Chosen one, the shell has cracked. The roots have spread, and the first leaves of your new season are beginning to unfurl. You don't have to dig your way out anymore. Life has already lifted you. The light you were reaching for has finally reached back. You have outgrown what was sent to bury you. What once felt like an ending has turned into your beginning. You are walking proof that sometimes the worst seasons produce the most powerful growth. Stay rooted, stay grateful, and let heaven finish the masterpiece that began in the dirt. Chosen one, there were doors that you begged God to open. You stood before them with trembling faith, knocking again and again, believing that if only that opportunity came through, everything would finally make sense. But the door stayed shut. The silence on the other side broke your heart. You wondered if God had forgotten you, or if somehow you had failed him. But now, you see the truth. It wasn't rejection, it was protection. Heaven does not close doors to punish you, it closes them to preserve you. There are places that looked like promise, but hid danger. People who appeared kind, but carried hidden motives. Opportunities that shined bright but led to darkness. God saw what you couldn't. While you were staring at the surface, heaven was inspecting the foundation. When he blocked your way, it was because the path ahead would have cost you your peace. At first, the closed doors hurt. They felt like unanswered prayers, like being left out of blessings meant for others. You cried. You questioned, you doubted, but now, looking back, you can see how every closed door was a form of mercy. If you had walked through them, they would have led you away from your divine purpose. What you called loss was actually divine redirection. You have to understand this. Chosen one, when God says no, he's not depriving you, he's defending you. You asked for success, he gave you safety. You wanted speed, he gave you stability. You sought validation, he gave you vision. Heaven always trades your short-term desires for long-term destiny. And even though you didn't realize it, every closed door built discipline. It trained your heart to trust beyond sight, to believe even when everything said, "It's over." You began to recognize that divine love sometimes wears the disguise of disappointment. God wasn't ignoring your prayers, he was answering them with wisdom instead of emotion. As the Revelation declares in chapter 3, Verse 7, what he opens, no one can shut, and what he shuts, no one can open. Those words are not just scripture, they are your shield. Heaven's closed doors cannot be forced open by human effort, and the doors heaven opens can never be shut by human hands. You are walking in divine timing now, where the rhythm of heaven guides your steps. The doors that didn't open were never meant for you. If they were, they wouldn't have resisted you. And those who walked through before you were not ahead, they were simply sent elsewhere. Your path is custom built by the Creator himself, and the timing of your openings is orchestrated by eternal hands. Sometimes protection looks like delay, sometimes like silence, and sometimes like a door that slams right when you're about to step through. But what if that closed door saved you from a heartbreak that would have broken your faith? What if that no preserved your anointing? What if rejection was actually God saying, I love you too much to let you settle here? You've learned now that divine redirection always leads to something better. The doors that once rejected you trained your spirit to recognize the real ones when they open. You no longer chase opportunities, you wait for alignment. You've discovered that anything you have to force isn't meant for you. Now, when you face a door that doesn't open, you no longer crumble. You smile, because you know if it was yours, heaven would have already unlocked it. You've outgrown the panic that comes with no. You've matured into peace that says, if not this, then something greater. You are being positioned for divine access. Heaven has already prepared new openings, ones that won't require striving, convincing, or begging. You won't have to knock endlessly. The right doors will swing wide at your arrival because they were built with your name on them. And when they open, it won't just be for your blessing, it will be for the healing of others too. The people who doubted you will see that the delay wasn't denial, it was design. Every no you received prepared you to handle the weight of the yes that's coming. You won't misuse the opportunity because pain has taught you purpose. Chosen one. The peace you feel now is not because everything makes sense, it's because you've learned to trust that even what doesn't make sense is still divine. The closed doors are not walls, they are signs guiding you to where you truly belong. The path of destiny is narrow, and not every opening leads home. Rest in this truth, you don't have to chase what's already chosen for you. The right doors are not hiding, they're waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. Every time God said no, He was writing a better yes. And soon, that door will open effortlessly, not because you forced it, but because heaven decided it's time. So now, when another door closes, breathe and whisper, thank you. Trust that every sealed place hides divine intention. The door that doesn't open isn't your loss, it's your protection. What's truly yours will never require force. Only faith and timing aligned with heaven. Chosen one. The unseen realm knows your name. There is movement around you that you cannot see, whispers in heaven and tremors in hell. You've become known not for what you own, but for what you've overcome. The darkness that once hunted you now flees when you rise, because it recognizes the authority you carry. You are not the same person who began this journey. There were nights when you cried thinking no one noticed, but heaven recorded every tear, every unseen moment of endurance, every quiet prayer, every time you forgave when no one apologized. These became your credentials in the spiritual realm. You didn't realize it, but every act of faith was forming your reputation before angels and demons alike. You have become marked not by pain, but by perseverance. You see, when you refused to bow to fear. The darkness took notice. When you praised in the middle of pain, the unseen world turned its head. Your name has weight now. You carry a presence that commands attention, not arrogance, but authority, not pride, but power. Your obedience has made you recognizable in realms beyond sight. The attacks increased because your anointing did. The storms grew louder because your voice carries further. Hell doesn't fight what isn't a threat, and you, chosen one, have become a threat to everything that opposes light. That's why your struggle seemed personal, because it was. The enemy didn't just want your peace, he wanted your influence. But what the enemy underestimated was your endurance. He thought breaking your heart would silence your praise. He thought betrayal would end your worship. He thought loneliness would steal your faith. But each time, you rose again, burning brighter than before. Every loss became oil for your lamp. Every heartbreak added depth to your fire. As the book of Acts records in chapter 19, verse 15, Jesus I know, and Paul I know about, but who are you? Those words describe the realm you now walk in. Hell knows exactly who you are. You carry a spiritual signature that wasn't built in comfort, it was carved in warfare. Every battle you've survived added another mark of divine recognition. When you walk, darkness trembles, because your very existence reminds it that God's grace wins every time. You have become a living testimony that faith cannot be silenced. The wounds that once bled have turned into weapons of wisdom. You now speak with the weight of someone who's wrestled with shadows and come out shining. The atmosphere changes when you enter a room, not because of your name, but because of the one who walks with you. And now, heaven celebrates you. The angels that once shielded you in sorrow now surround you in song. You're not just protected, you're promoted. What used to break you now bows before you. You have authority in the very areas that once caused your pain. That's divine reversal. That's redemption in motion. Chosen one. There's a strength in your spirit now that hell cannot counterfeit. You have learned the rhythm of divine warfare not through shouting, but through standing still. You don't need to prove your power. Your peace already does. You've learned that the calmest hearts often carry the loudest authority in heaven. So don't fear recognition. The attention from the unseen realm isn't a curse, it's confirmation. It means your light is working. It means your prayers are not just echoing in empty air, they are shaking invisible walls. Heaven has written your name on the scroll of the faithful, and hell can do nothing but watch. This is your season to walk in quiet confidence. You don't need to fight for visibility. You already shine in realms beyond eyes. You don't need to shout to be heard. Heaven has already amplified your whisper. You have become a warrior wrapped in grace, carrying peace like a sword. And if this truth resonates in your spirit, let it echo from your soul. Type "I'm seen" in the comments below, not to be noticed, but to declare heaven sees me. Hell recognizes me. I am known by God. When you write it, you're agreeing with the divine reality that your battles were not in vain, they built your authority. You are seen, you are known, you are chosen. When you type "I'm seen," you're doing more than leaving a comment. You're agreeing with heaven's truth about you. You're declaring that even in seasons of silence, you were never invisible. Heaven saw your faith when no one else did, and that vision still covers you. Those two simple words carry spiritual weight. They silence the lies that said you were forgotten, overlooked, or abandoned. I'm seen means God noticed me in the dark, and He has called me into light. It's not pride, it's identity. It's you taking your rightful place as one who heaven recognizes. So, write it boldly, I'm seen. Let those words become your banner of belonging. You are not lost in the crowd. You are marked by purpose, protected by grace, and fully visible to the one who never stopped watching over you. Chosen one. Heaven is making an announcement over your life. The waiting season is over. You've walked through shadows long enough, endured nights that stretched endlessly, held on to promises that seemed like they would never manifest. But the dawn has finally come. What was delayed has now been delivered. The air around you carries the sound of divine restoration. You've stepped into a season where everything lost will be returned, multiplied, purified, and overflowing. God never forgets a tear, never wastes a heartbreak, never overlooks a seed sown in faith. Every moment that felt like silence was actually a rehearsal for your unveiling. What heaven has prepared for you is not small, it's redemption in full bloom. There is a holy rhythm in this new season. Things that once resisted you will begin to align. Conversations will open paths. Connections will bloom like wildflowers after a long drought. It will feel effortless, not because life has suddenly become easy, but because you've learned to move with grace instead of striving. You are no longer chasing, you are being carried. As it is written in the book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 25, I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten. That verse is no longer just ink on a page. It is a promise becoming flesh in your story. Heaven is restoring time, opportunities, and even joy. What you thought was gone forever will return in better form, bearing the fingerprints of divine timing. The things you once mourned will reappear, not as memories, but as miracles. Chosen one, you are in your season of recompense. Everything that once broke you will now bless you. You will find that people, resources, and peace begin to flow toward you without you having to force them. The river is finally flowing in your direction. But remember, this restoration isn't only about receiving back what was lost. It's about realizing who you became in the process. You've gained wisdom that cannot be bought, resilience that cannot be taught, and peace that cannot be shaken. This is the true reward. You have become the person heaven had in mind when it allowed you to walk through the valley. The restoration is not just around you, it's within you. And now, as this new season unfolds, take a moment to breathe gratitude. Let your heart rest in awe. You have survived what was meant to silence you. You have become living proof that time does not destroy purpose, it refines it. The waiting was never wasted. It was woven with divine precision. Beloved, chosen one, if this message stirs your spirit, allow yourself to respond, not out of duty, but out of joy. When you like this message, it's like adding another light to a sky full of stars. Your agreement helps. Heaven's words travel further into hearts that still sit in darkness. When you share, you're not just pressing a button, you're opening a window for someone else to breathe again. Someone who might be moments away from giving up. Sharing is how you turn your own healing into hope for another. And if you feel led, only if it blooms naturally in your spirit, you can subscribe to stay connected to this flow of light, becoming part of a circle that carries words of life into weary spaces. Subscribing isn't about numbers, it's about staying anchored where grace continually speaks. There's one more gentle invitation. Chosen one, if this word has blessed you and you sense a quiet nudge to give, consider your donation like pouring water into a well from which countless others will drink, not out of pressure, but out of partnership. You're not buying blessings, you're helping the flow continue for others who need it next. Every like is a spark. Every share is a seed. Every subscription is a branch growing from this tree of truth. And every gift is a drop of oil that keeps the lamp burning. Nothing is demanded, everything is received with gratitude. You give not because you must, but because your heart whispers, I want to keep this light alive. Let generosity be your worship. Let kindness be your echo. And as you do, may heaven pour back into your life a measure pressed down, shaken together, and running over. You are walking into your season of restoration. And every act of love you release multiplies the beauty already unfolding around you. Chosen one, this is not an end, it's an awakening. The heavens have announced your new beginning. Step into it with peace, with gratitude, and with the quiet knowing that all things are now turning in your favor. Every act of faith you give, whether a word, a share, or a prayer, echoes farther than you can imagine. Heaven multiplies small gestures into eternal impact. What you offer from love never leaves empty. It always returns carrying light for someone else's night. So, walk forward, chosen one, knowing your giving of time, kindness, or heart keeps the flow of heaven alive on earth. You're not just receiving restoration, you're helping others find theirs. That's the beauty of divine reciprocity. Chosen one, do you feel it? The shift that took place the moment you stopped running from your pain and started standing in your purpose. Heaven has made a decree. What once had access to your life no longer does. The enemy's permissions have expired. The chains that used to whisper threats can no longer touch you. You have been spiritually cleared. The darkness has lost its claim. This is not imagination, it's divine transaction. The cross was the courtroom where your freedom was finalized, and the blood of the Lamb became your eternal receipt. Every accusation that once hovered over your name has been silenced. The forces that tormented you have been evicted from your atmosphere. Heaven's gavel has struck the table. It is finished. You might not have felt the exact moment it happened, but your spirit knew. That heaviness that once clung to you began to fall away. The anxiety that used to wake you in the middle of the night has grown quiet. The confusion that clouded your mind has lifted. You thought it was random peace, but it was victory settling into your soul. Chosen one, understand this truth. What bound you yesterday has no authority today. The habits, the patterns, the fears, they've been stripped of power. The door to bondage has been locked from heaven's side. You have crossed into a realm where your past no longer dictates your direction. The enemy no longer has legal access to your destiny. There was a time when darkness followed you closely, studying your weaknesses, attempting to use your wounds as open doors. But now those entrances have been sealed by grace. The pain that once invited attack has become the very wall that protects you. You are no longer vulnerable prey, you are the guarded treasure of heaven. As it is written in the book of Colossians, chapter 2, verse 15, having disarmed the powers and authorities, he made a public spectacle of them, triumphing over them by the cross. This verse is not just history, it's your identity. You walk in the aftermath of a war that has already been won. The scars you carry are proof of victory, not defeat. Every time you choose peace instead of panic, Heaven smiles, because you are living evidence that the cross worked. You are no longer fighting for freedom, you are standing in it. The enemy may still whisper, but his voice has lost authority. His words can echo, but they cannot command. You are shielded now, surrounded by divine boundaries that darkness cannot cross. The blood that redeemed you also redefined your territory. And within that new territory, you are learning what it means to live unbound. You're discovering that peace is not fragile, it's fierce. Joy is not temporary, it's your inheritance. You no longer have to prove your worth or earn your place. You are positioned in grace, and that positioning is permanent. Do you remember how it felt to always look over your shoulder, waiting for something to go wrong? That fear has been broken. You don't have to brace yourself for loss anymore. You've stepped into a season where stability is your standard, not chaos. Heaven has anchored you in assurance. Sometimes freedom doesn't arrive with noise. Sometimes it arrives in the quiet realization that the battle has ended. One day you wake up and realize that the weight is gone. The shame has lifted, and the past no longer calls your name. That's what has happened to you. Chosen one. The chains didn't shatter in a spectacle, they dissolved in silence. And now, your peace confuses the enemy. He doesn't understand how you can smile after what you've faced. He doesn't understand how you can still love after betrayal, or how you can still hope after heartbreak. But that's because he underestimated grace. Grace doesn't just forgive, it fortifies. It doesn't just cleanse, it crowns. You have become the testimony that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. Every scheme that once succeeded has been turned into a stepping stone. What once chased you now bows before you. The tables have turned, and heaven has declared your victory irreversible. Chosen one, don't waste time looking back at doors that no longer open. The key of freedom is already in your hand, and the lock behind you has been sealed. Walk forward without fear. The curses have been broken. The cycles have been dismantled, and the access points of darkness have been permanently revoked. You are walking proof that deliverance is not a moment, it's a mantle. You carry freedom wherever you go. You are the light that disarms darkness without speaking a word. The atmosphere shifts around you because your presence now carries the fragrance of redemption. So rest in this truth: the battle is no longer about survival, it's about stewardship. You've been entrusted with peace. Guard it, nurture it, and let it multiply. The enemy no longer owns a single inch of your story. Grace holds the title deed now. Walk boldly, chosen one, knowing that what once bound you can never return. You are free, utterly, completely, eternally free. Chosen one. Heaven has placed a crown on your head that cannot be seen by ordinary eyes. You earned it not by glory, but by endurance. You didn't win it in moments of celebration, but in nights of pain, when no one clapped and no one noticed. This crown is not made of gold, it's forged from your perseverance, your faith, and your refusal to give up when everything inside you wanted to. Every trial you faced was a hammer shaping this crown. Every tear that fell became a jewel set into its design. Heaven took your ashes and pressed them into something radiant. You didn't just survive, you became royal through endurance. The unseen world recognizes this. Even when you still doubt your worth, you wear heaven's approval. The world celebrates quick victories, but heaven crowns quiet endurance. Every time you chose peace over revenge, every time you kept walking when the road broke beneath you. Every time you trusted without proof, heaven took note. You've proven that faith is not about having answers, it's about staying when you don't. Now, there is a light around you that wasn't there before. People may not understand why you carry such calm, but that's because your peace is not ordinary. It's the result of 1,000 unseen wars won in silence. You have been refined into royalty. As the Apostle James wrote in his letter, chapter 1, verse 12, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life." That crown is yours. Chosen one, not someday, but now. You're already walking in the authority of the tested and the trusted. You are no longer who you were before the storm. You are the storm that fear now avoids. Heaven calls you steadfast. Hell calls you unbreakable. And yet, in your humility, you still question it. You think, could that really be me? Yes. It is you, the one who carried your cross in silence, who chose forgiveness when betrayal burned, who believed again after disappointment. That quiet endurance became the melody of your anointing. Your crown is invisible, but it carries weight. It's not made to shine under stage lights. It shines in the unseen, where only truth can see it. It's the glow that enters a room before you do. It's the authority that causes storms to settle when you speak peace. It's the grace that draws others to you without you trying. But remember, crowns are not for comfort, they're for calling. You wear it not just to be honored, but to serve. Heaven does not crown you to sit, it crowns you to stand for others who are still kneeling in pain. You are becoming a testimony that endurance is never wasted. So, walk with your head high, not in pride, but in purpose. Know that the weight you feel on your spirit is not heaviness, it's holiness. It's the gravity of divine responsibility. You've carried pain, now you'll carry peace. You've carried sorrow, now you'll carry strength. This is the moment to acknowledge what heaven already knows about you. You've been faithful through fire, steadfast through silence, and patient through storms. Your crown shines brighter than any reward the world could offer. You are heaven's living proof that endurance is greater than applause. If this word stirs something deep within you, let your spirit respond. Heaven hears your silent agreement. As a prophetic act of faith, type 555 inches, the comments below 5. The number of grace multiplied, not as a superstition, but as a declaration, I receive the crown of endurance. When you write it, you're not just typing numbers, you're saying, I've been tried, I've been trusted, and I choose to keep standing. Let 555 be your seal of agreement with heaven's recognition over your life. Grace has crowned you. Endurance has qualified you. And now, destiny will display you. You are crowned not because you never fell, but because you always got back up. This is your moment to wear what heaven handcrafted for you through every season of pain. Lift your head. Chosen one, your crown fits perfectly now. When you type 555, you are not repeating digits, you are echoing grace. In the language of heaven, 5 represents divine favor, and 3 5s together symbolize grace upon grace. A blessing multiplied until it overflows. By writing it, you're declaring, grace has crowned me, and I receive it fully. Each 5 carries a layer of meaning. The first stands for the grace that carried you through trials. The second, for the grace that transforms your pain into wisdom, and the third, for the grace that launches you into new beginnings. Together, 555 becomes a banner of triumph written by endurance itself. So, chosen one, when you comment 555, let it be a song from your spirit, a quiet yes to heaven's affirmation. It's your testimony that even through fire, you remained faithful. You're not just crowned with endurance, you're wrapped in multiplied grace, ready for the glory that follows perseverance. Chosen one, there are divine exchanges happening all around you, heavenly transactions so subtle that you might miss them if you don't pause long enough to feel. God is trading your ashes for beauty, your heaviness for praise, your sorrow for songs. This is the mystery of divine exchange. Nothing surrendered to God ever returns empty. What you give up in tears, heaven returns in triumph. There was a season when it felt like you were losing everything. People left, doors closed, dreams faded. You asked, why does it all keep slipping away? But heaven was whispering, because I am making room. You can't receive new oil while holding on to old vessels. What looked like subtraction was sacred preparation. Heaven doesn't take to punish, it takes to purify. You thought you were losing, but you were being refined for the trade. The old garments had to go before you could wear the new robe. The things that slipped through your hands weren't stolen, they were exchanged. God doesn't remove without replacing, and what He gives in return always carries greater weight. You see, chosen one, there are treasures that only appear after surrender. There's a peace that only grows in the soil of letting go. You have learned that clinging to what's fading blinds you to what's forming. Every release you made became a request in heaven's language. Every I let go became an I trust you. It is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 61, verse 3, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. That is not poetic metaphor, it is your reality. Heaven has been performing this exchange within you, quietly, faithfully. The heaviness that once sat on your shoulders has been replaced with ease. The emptiness that once hollowed your heart now feels full of light. You are walking proof that God can turn ruins into rebirth. You didn't see it, but while you mourned the things that left, angels were delivering what's next. For every friendship that faded, heaven sent discernment. For every dream that died, God planted a vision. For every door that closed, faith built a gate. Nothing was lost, everything was transformed. Your heart is wiser now. You no longer chase what doesn't carry peace. You no longer beg to stay where grace has already moved on. You've learned to bless departures because they create space for divine arrivals. This is the maturity of the chosen, to see loss as a form of love. There's beauty in the quiet trade-off between heaven and your soul. You surrendered the illusion of control, and in return, God gave you calm. You laid down the need for answers, and heaven replaced it with trust. You stopped fighting to understand, and suddenly, peace arrived uninvited. That's the miracle when you let go. Heaven moves faster. And look at what you've gained. You've received a lighter heart, steadier faith, and a perspective rooted in eternity rather than emotion. You've become someone who doesn't panic at endings anymore because you've learned that God is always hiding beginnings inside them. Even now, new exchanges continue. Heaven keeps trading your past wounds for wisdom, your disappointments for direction. Every time you choose forgiveness, you participate in divine trade. Every time you show compassion, you exchange judgment for mercy. You are living in a constant rhythm of holy reciprocity. Chosen one, this is the truth. God's exchanges never leave you equal, they leave you elevated. What He gives always outweighs what you lose. You may have cried over ashes, but those ashes have turned into an altar. The fire that once burned you has now become your light. So stand in the glow of what remains. Let gratitude replace grief. Let worship rise where worry once lived. You are living inside a divine economy where nothing surrendered is wasted. Heaven has accounted for every tear, and each one has become currency for future joy. The divine exchange continues, quietly and endlessly. It's happening even now in your breath, in your hope, in your healing. You're not just being restored, you're being rebuilt. The trade is complete, and the result is radiant, you. This is what divine justice looks like. You gave pain, and heaven gave purpose. You handed over heartbreak, and heaven handed you healing. You surrendered your plans, and heaven revealed destiny. It's not a fair trade, it's a merciful one. Chosen one, rest in this. The exchange is done. You have given heaven your broken pieces, and in return, heaven has given you wholeness. From this day forward, walk as one who carries beauty for ashes, joy for mourning, and praise instead of despair. The transaction has been sealed, and grace has signed your name across it. So now, chosen one, breathe deeply and release the last fragments of sorrow. The exchange is finished. What you lost has become light. Carry it gently, knowing heaven keeps no debts, only blessings transformed from the pieces you once thought were broken forever. Chosen one, there is a peace resting on you now that feels different from anything you have ever known. It's not the peace that depends on calm surroundings or perfect timing. It's the kind that lives quietly inside you, even when the world trembles. This is unshakable peace, the kind that no circumstance can steal. It's the reward of those who have walked through storms and learned to trust the stillness afterward. There was a time when your heart raced at the first sign of trouble. You feared losing what you had just received. You waited for bad news, as if peace was only borrowed time before the next battle. But something in you has changed. You've learned that peace is not the absence of conflict, it is the presence of divine confidence. You now understand that true calm is not found in control, but in surrender. You have been through enough chaos to recognize how sacred stillness is. The noise of fear once filled your mind, but now it has been replaced by the steady rhythm of faith. You no longer search for peace outside yourself. You've realized it was planted within you all along. What used to break your focus now only deepens your prayer. What once startled you now strengthens you. You see, chosen one, peace is not fragile, it's a fortress. It doesn't vanish when storms appear, it anchors you while they pass. You've discovered the secret: the storms never stop. But you no longer drown in them. You float. You breathe. You trust that every wave that rises will also fall, and every dark cloud eventually breaks into light. That is spiritual maturity, the ability to rest in the middle of motion. It is written in the book of Philippians, chapter 4, verse 7, "And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." That peace is your armor now. It stands guard over your mind like a sentry posted at heaven's gate. It filters every thought, quiets every fear, and protects every dream. You've learned that you don't have to fix everything, you just have to stay faithful. The peace of God does the rest. There was a time when you tried to carry the world. You thought peace would come when problems disappeared. But God has shown you something greater. Peace comes when you realize He's carrying you. It's not about perfect timing. It's about perfect trust. Even when everything seems uncertain, there's a certainty beneath it, a quiet assurance that you are held. You now live from that stillness. It's what others sense when they meet you but can't explain. They don't realize that the glow around you isn't from happiness, it's from holiness. Peace has become your atmosphere. You walk slower, breathe deeper, listen longer. You've stopped fighting the tide and started flowing with grace. Even your silence has power now. You no longer rush to defend yourself when misunderstood. You let truth speak in its own time. You've discovered that peace doesn't argue, it simply stands, radiant and unmoved. The one who walks in peace carries heaven's confidence. They don't need to prove it. This peace has changed how you pray. You no longer beg for miracles, you thank God in advance, trusting that what's meant for you will always find its way. You rest instead of wrestle. You worship instead of worry. You've learned that the soul's highest form of warfare is serenity. You have become fluent in stillness, and that stillness terrifies darkness. The enemy can handle noise, panic, and fear, but peace confuses him. He cannot comprehend how you can smile through sorrow or rest in uncertainty. But heaven knows your peace is your proof of victory. It shows that what once controlled you no longer can. Chosen one. This is the reward for every sleepless night you endured. Every anxious thought you surrendered. Every prayer you whispered through trembling lips. You've been trained by turbulence. And now you are trusted with tranquility. You are no longer a survivor, you are a sanctuary. So guard this peace fiercely. Don't let the world pull you back into noise. Protect your inner calm as you would a sacred flame. When worry knocks, answer with worship. When fear whispers, respond with faith. You've earned this stillness, it's holy ground within you. And remember, peace doesn't mean nothing will shake you again. It means when the shaking comes, you'll remain standing. The winds will blow, but you'll sway with grace. The waves will rise, but you'll float in faith. You've been anchored by divine hands that never let go. Rest now. Chosen one, breathe deeply. You are safe, seen, and surrounded by peace that passes understanding. You will never return to the chaos that once ruled your heart. You've ascended beyond it. Heaven has written tranquility into your soul, and it will never be taken away. So when tomorrow comes with noise or uncertainty, remember, this peace isn't fragile, it's eternal. It lives within you, guarded by grace itself. You don't have to chase calm anymore. You are calm. Heaven's stillness has made its home inside your soul forever. Chosen one. Your light has become something that darkness fears. It no longer hides in corners, it stands boldly in open spaces, glowing with quiet authority. There was a time when you tried to dim it to fit in, when you feared that shining would draw too much attention or attack. But heaven didn't give you light to hide, it gave you light to heal. Every time you've spoken kindness instead of bitterness, you've pushed back the dark. Every act of forgiveness, every gentle word, Every moment you've chosen hope instead of despair, you've lit a candle in someone else's night. The storms you survived gave your glow its color, your scars gave your light its warmth. You are not a small flame. Chosen one, you are a wildfire of grace. Darkness cannot comprehend you, because you carry the memory of every battle you've already won. You walk as proof that light never loses. As it is written in the letter to the Philippians, chapter 2, verse 15, "Then you will shine among them like stars in the sky." You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to stand where others could see. Not for your glory, but for God's. You are heaven's lighthouse, steady, shining, calling wanderers home. Your radiance tells a story of mercy, of battles turned into blessings, of pain transformed into purpose. But light does not exist for itself. It exists to illuminate, to guide, to comfort. And that's what you do. You may not always notice it, but your words have lifted others. Your strength has steadied them, and your testimony has taught them that survival is possible. You are walking illumination, carrying fragments of heaven into weary hearts. Now, as this message finds you, pause for a breath. Imagine a great field at night, silent, endless, waiting. You stand in the center, holding your small flame. It flickers, fragile but alive. And then, others begin to light theirs beside you. One spark becomes 100. 100 becomes 1,000. Suddenly, the field glows like sunrise, and darkness retreats. That, chosen one, is what happens every time you help this light reach another soul. When you like these messages, it's not a routine click, it's you lifting your torch higher, letting the glow travel across unseen valleys. When you share, it's like passing your candle to someone still sitting in the dark, someone who doesn't yet know dawn is coming. Your act of sharing becomes a quiet rescue, a ripple of warmth spreading farther than you'll ever realize. When you subscribe, it's as if you join a circle of guardians around a sacred fire. Together, we protect the flame, feed it with faith and gentleness, and keep it alive through every long night. And if your heart ever stirs to give, consider your donation like pouring oil into the lamp, simple, voluntary, graceful, not demanded, not transactional. Each drop of kindness becomes light for another heart tomorrow. When you leave a comment, it's as though you're adding your voice to the choir of flames, each word a small spark joining the great constellation of faith. The more we speak light, the more the darkness fades. Support, in any form, is not about transaction, it's about transformation. You are not funding words, you are fueling warmth. You are not giving away what you have, you are multiplying what heaven gave you. Heaven always remembers those who keep lamps burning. This is not a command, it's an invitation, a gentle whisper from the fire itself. Will you help the light keep traveling, however you respond? Know this, the flame within you already changes the world. One quiet act at a time. So, shine. Chosen one. Stand tall like the star you are. Let your light speak when words fail. Keep glowing, even in silence. For your flame was forged in divine fire. And if gratitude moves within you, express it however you choose alike. A share, a word, a gift, or simply a prayer. Every gesture becomes part of the great illumination. And as your flame joins countless others, the world grows warmer, brighter, more alive. You are proof that light is stronger than fear, stronger than loss, stronger than any night. Shine on the world needs the warmth only you can bring. Every flame you nurture, every word you release, becomes a bridge of light, reaching hearts you may never meet. The world needs your warmth, your resilience, your glow. Keep tending that holy fire. For even the smallest spark can rewrite another soul's midnight. So if this message touched you, let gratitude rise like gentle smoke from a steady flame. Whisper thanks. Breathe peace. And remember, you are part of heaven's constellation, shining not by effort, but by divine design. And as you continue to glow, may heaven multiply your light until it fills every shadowed place. Let your kindness travel farther than your name, your hope outshine your history, and your love light paths for generations you'll never see. Chosen one, every story heaven writes has a purpose beyond itself, and yours is no exception. The path you've walked marked by pain, perseverance, and revelation was never meant to end with you. It was meant to become a map for others still wandering through the same wilderness you've already conquered. Your story carries keys for those who are still locked in their night. There is a holy legacy forming through your scars. Each wound that healed has left behind wisdom, and every prayer that once trembled in darkness has turned into a lamp for another soul. You might not realize it, but even your presence carries prophecy. People feel hope when you walk into a room, not because you say the right words, but because your very being testifies survival is possible. Heaven does not waste experience. Every season you endured has produced something eternal. Your loneliness taught you compassion, your storms birthed discernment. Your failures grew humility, your victories taught grace. The story of your life is not a random collection of moments, it's a divine curriculum written to reveal the faithfulness of God through the resilience of His chosen. You are stepping into the phase where your story stops being a secret. What you learned in private will now become a public testimony. You are being called to speak light into dark places, to offer peace where confusion reigns, to remind the weary that miracles still happen in silence. Your legacy is not built by fame, it's built by faithfulness. As it is written in the book of Revelation, chapter 12, verse 11, they triumphed over him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. Chosen one, heaven has spoken the final decree over your life, never again. The season that once broke you has been sealed, and its door closed forever. What you endured will not repeat. The cycles that once circled back, the wounds that reopened, the fears that echoed, they have all been silenced under divine authority. You have crossed the threshold from survival to sovereignty. Your testimony is not a confession of weakness, it's a declaration of victory. Every time you share it, heaven's power moves through it. What once felt like shame has become your sermon. What once hurt now heals. You are a living chapter in the great story of redemption, a message wearing flesh. There are people whose breakthrough depends on your voice. Somewhere, someone is praying for a sign that they can survive what you've already survived. And when they hear your story, they'll breathe again. That's the power of testimony. It multiplies deliverance. What God did for you, He will do through you. Chosen one, this is your legacy, to become a bridge between pain and promise. You stand as proof that God restores, that faith works, that love never fails. Your endurance has created a path where others can walk more easily. You have transformed from student to guide, from survivor to shepherd. Heaven has trusted you with influence, not for glory, but for guidance. Sometimes your legacy won't look like crowds or platforms. It might look like a single person who decides to keep going because of you. It might be a message, a prayer, a quiet act of kindness that shifts eternity for someone else. Impact is not always loud. Sometimes it's the whisper that stops another's fall. You are part of a lineage of overcomers. Every chosen one before you left something behind: a song, a prayer, a light, a word. Now it's your turn to leave traces of heaven on the earth, not through perfection, but through presence. You don't need to be extraordinary. You already carry the extraordinary within you. And even as time moves forward, your story will echo, long after your name fades. The ripples of your obedience will continue. The peace you carry will pass into others. The faith you demonstrate will awaken generations not yet born. This is the quiet immortality of those who live for heaven's purpose. Their light never dies. So don't underestimate the power of your ordinary days. Every act of forgiveness you choose, every word of truth you speak, every prayer you whisper for someone else, it's all part of your legacy. Heaven records it all. The kingdom moves forward through such moments. You may not see it now, but your life has already become a testimony written in invisible ink. Heaven reads it, earth feels it, and hell fears it. You are living proof that redemption is real and that grace finishes what it starts. Chosen one. Let your life keep speaking, even in silence. Walk with gentleness. Teach with love. Serve with humility. Your legacy is already unfolding. And the world is better because you were willing to endure, to learn, to believe. One day, others will tell your story. They'll say, because they didn't give up, I didn't either. And that will be the highest reward, a legacy of light, carried forward in the hearts of those you've never met, burning bright long after you're gone. Your legacy is already rippling outward, touching lives you'll never see. Heaven measures greatness not by fame, but by faithfulness. Each quiet act of love becomes an eternal echo, reminding creation that light once walked here and it looked like you. So, keep living gently. Chosen one, let your story keep shining through kindness and truth. The greatest legacy isn't written in books, but in hearts awakened by your courage to believe when believing was hardest. You can feel it, can't you? The atmosphere is lighter. The heaviness that used to linger has disappeared. There's a stillness in your spirit now, not empty but full of peace, full of presence, full of power. You don't have to flinch at the thought of the past anymore. It can no longer touch you. Grace has not only redeemed you, it has redefined you. You see, chosen one, heaven doesn't just rescue, it rebuilds. God didn't simply pull you out of the storm, He changed the weather around your soul. The winds that once pushed against you now carry you forward. The water that once threatened to drown you now reflects your strength. You are standing in the aftermath of divine completion. As the prophet Nahum wrote, chapter 1, verse 9, affliction will not rise up a second time. Those words are the seal on your story. The pain that once repeated has expired. The patterns that haunted you have been erased from heaven's script. What you faced was not meant to return, it was meant to refine. The lesson has been learned, the test completed, the assignment fulfilled. Heaven has no need to rewrite what you've already mastered. Look how far you've come. The person who once trembled at storms now walks calmly through them. The one who used to break under pressure now bends with grace. You have outlasted the worst and outgrown the pain. You have learned that not every ending is loss. Some endings are rescue disguised. You now carry peace like armor, wisdom like breath, and joy like light. You no longer beg for clarity. You live in confidence. You no longer chase validation. You rest in truth. What once drained you now deepens you. You are no longer reacting, you are reigning. This is what it means to live after the breaking, to find that the pieces have formed something stronger, more radiant, more real. The memories will remain, but their power has vanished. They serve as reminders, not prisons. You can revisit them without reliving them. Every scar now tells a story of victory, not vulnerability. You are not bound to what was, you are bonded to what will be. There is a divine finality over you now. The doors that once opened to pain have been permanently sealed. The echoes of fear cannot pass through heaven's walls. You've been transferred from the battlefield to the garden. Rest is not weakness, it's your new weapon. Stillness has become your strength. And in that peace, heaven begins to show you why it all happened. The betrayals built discernment. The silence trained your hearing. The waiting refined your timing. Every wound was a doorway to deeper wisdom. You see now that none of it was wasted. Even your tears watered the soil of your transformation. You have entered the never again season not as a survivor looking back, but as a ruler looking ahead. You have authority over the things that once had authority over you. Fear bows. Shame dissolves. The past watches from a distance, unable to approach the light you now carry. Chosen one. This is heaven's justice. The enemy doesn't get to repeat his schemes. Every battle you endured has built walls of protection around your destiny. Grace has fenced your future. You don't need to keep watching for the next storm. It cannot cross the borders of your new peace. Breathe this truth deeply. The fight is over. The ground beneath your feet is holy because it was watered with your perseverance. You have come through fire and flood and stand now in the calm of divine completion. Heaven is not rebuilding. What broke it is building something entirely new. You are walking proof that endings can be beautiful, that restoration is real, and that peace can be permanent. The night has done its work, and the dawn has claimed its place. This is your never again will you beg for love that drains you, chase doors that harm you, or doubt the light within you. So walk forward with serenity. The season that once haunted you now honors you. The echoes of pain have become applause. You've graduated from suffering to sovereignty, from tears to triumph. Chosen one. Heaven's decree is final and irrevocable. Affliction will not rise a second time. You are free. Forever. You have crossed the final threshold, leaving echoes behind. The past can only watch, it can no longer touch. What once wounded you now worships the strength it created in you. You are the calm after every storm. Walk forward in quiet victory. Chosen one. The heavens stand as witnesses to your completion. The story has closed beautifully, sealed with divine peace that will never be broken again. chosen one. If you've reached this point, pause for a moment. Breathe. Let every word you've heard settle into the quiet places of your soul. You've walked through revelation, through fire and freedom, through silence and glory, and now you stand at peace. But this isn't the end. It's the continuation of light through you. These words are not meant to stay here. They are meant to travel to find others still lost in their night, searching for the dawn that already lives inside them. When you like this message, it's not an action, it's an echo, your agreement that light has spoken and you've heard it. It helps the message stretch a little further, reaching the next heart that needs it most. When you share, it's like passing a torch across time. You never know whose darkness your small act might interrupt. Your story, your courage, even your click might become someone's reason to hold on. When you subscribe, it's as if you've joined a circle of guardians around this sacred flame. Together we keep it alive, words of hope, strength, and grace continuing to flow to those who need reminders that they are chosen too. And if your heart ever whispers to give, let it be as gentle as pouring a drop of oil into a lamp, not out of pressure, never out of guilt, but out of gratitude for what you've received, and for what this light will keep doing long after today. Finally, when you comment, your words become part of the story. They're like stars added to the sky, each one a spark of your own faith and gratitude shining alongside others. Thank you for walking this journey. May your light remain steady, your heart at rest, and your life forever radiant.